I'm Harvey Blankfeld, host of Las Vegas Real Estate Now and principal of the Blankfeld Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. We have prepared this video for you so you can better understand the documents we use here in Southern Nevada. And while we don't review every section of the document, we do try to clear up some of the most relevant concerns. We are recording this video in 2025, and if you're watching it long after that, know that there are likely changes that have taken place with this document, and this video may have some parts that are outdated. Also know that we operate here in Southern Nevada, and these forms are specific to our market. While you may be able to glean some value from this video, please know that no two markets operate exactly alike. And finally, I need you to know that I'm not an attorney, and none of what I'm explaining should be interpreted as legal advice. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is the exclusive authorization and right to sell, exchange, or lease brokerage listing agreement. ER stands for exclusive right. This is the document we use here in Southern Nevada to list a property. It's a relationship between our broker and the seller, and it's the contract we use to sell the property. Let me read this line underneath the heading. It says, "This is intended to be a legally binding contract. No representation is made as to the legal or tax consequences of this contract. If you desire legal or tax advice, consult your attorney or tax advisor." I often tell sellers or any of my clients, if they say, "Hey, gee, Harvey, should I have an attorney review this?" Yeah, absolutely. If you're not comfortable with it, by all means, have your attorney review it or your CPA and let them put your mind at ease. Okay? Anyway, moving on. In this document, here we go. Here's our sellers. We've got Ralph and Alice Cramden. We're listing the property on September 26th. It's a 6-month term that expires on March 25th of the following year. Here's the tax ID of our property. Here's the address of the property. This is the list price we're going to be asking, $875,000. And this is the earnest money amount we're asking the buyer to put into escrow to open escrow. That's $15,000. Here are the terms that are available to our buyers: cash, conventional, FHA, or VA. There are other selections. You could lease it, lease option, or owner carry, or you could list some other type of option as well here. But these are the ones we normally use. Now, at this price point, $875,000, FHA might be difficult, but I don't want to rule it out. It's a possibility if the buyer comes up with enough cash down and the FHA deal happens to be better for them. I don't want to say no to that. There are instances where you might not want to make it available FHA and VA because of the condition of the property, because they're going to be, the appraisers are a little more challenging on those, but these are choices that you can make, and each house and each seller is a little bit different. Down here, the seller does authorize us to disclose the existence of multiple offers, but here they're saying they do not want us to disclose the price or terms of those offers. I like this selection. There's options you can do here. You could say no to both. You could say yes to both, whatever you want to do. I like it this way. I like to be able to tell a buyer or buyer's agent, yes, there's multiple offers, but when they ask me if I can give them the idea what they got to do to beat them, I don't really want to be able to disclose that. I'd rather they just give us their very best offer. That way they may beat the other best offer by $10,000 instead of just $1,000. So that's why I like to do it this way. Here's the items that are included in the sale. You got an existing refrigerator, washer, and dryer. If you have other items you want to offer and include, like a pool table or things of that nature, by all means, put them in here. All the other appliances are already included. They're considered real property, but these items are not, so we'd like to add them in here. If you want to exclude something, if grandma left you that chandelier and you're using it in the dining room and you don't want that to go with the house, you can write it in here, say, hey, existing light fixture in the dining room does not convey. However, whenever I have a situation like this with my sellers, I would tell them, hey, let's get that out. Let's take it out of the dining room. Go ahead, go to the Home Depot, buy another fixture and replace it. Put that in a box in the garage and set it aside and just take it with you. I don't want the buyer even knowing about that fixture or thinking, gee, I'd really love to have that fixture, because then that becomes a negotiating element in the contract. And if you really want it and you don't want it to go with the home, I don't want it to even become a possibility. Anyway, moving on here. Now, there's certain things in the home that are sometimes questionable. Does it stay? Does it go? TVs, mounted TVs have become a question of late. Video doorbells have become a question of late. If we're not certain about those things, let's make sure we clarify them here in the listing contract. But most importantly, it's also make sure we clarify them in the actual contract between the seller and the buyer. And there is a separate document we can do that with called a smart home disclosure, where we can list all the items that are going to stay and all the items that are not going to stay and make it clear. That clarity becomes very important and makes the deal go a lot more smoothly rather than wondering towards the end, gee, what stays and what doesn't. Here you're declaring whether or not you have a solar system on the home. This particular house does not. And then underneath there, it says seller identifies above items as included or excluded from offer in the property sale. They're talking about the smart home addendum. Now, having said that, I want to talk about solar for just a moment. Let's scroll down here and talk about leased items. If you have a solar system, you want to identify how it's held. Is it owned outright? Is it financed? Is it leased? Is there an energy agreement? Whatever that is, we need to make sure that that's going to be involved in the contract also, not just the listing agreement, but we want it in the contract. So here's some advice to you listing agents out there. If there is something that's leased or that's got financing that you want the buyer to assume or something of that nature, as soon as you get this document, go back to your office and prepare a counteroffer with those specific details so that you're not going to forget when that offer comes in to make sure that the buyer is aware that they're going to be assuming a solar lease. We don't want our seller exposed to the idea they're going to have to write a check for that whole solar system because we forgot to disclose it in that contract. So that becomes very, very important. Title insurance, seller's going to provide title insurance. It's called an owner's policy. Compensation to our broker. Here we're asking for 3%. We're also asking for a fixed fee of $350. Here's an important term in our contract now that just came about recently as a result of the NAR settlement. And I'll let me read this statement. This commission is exclusively for the listing broker services and is not subject to sharing, splitting, or otherwise distributing to any other buyer's broker or agent. So basically, as a seller, now you're only committing to paying your listing broker in this contract. Before, where we had a cooperative commission included in that, no longer have it. That's part of the settlement. Now, I want to clarify the cost to sellers because right now, as of this taping, virtually every contract we're doing, the seller is still helping the buyer with their agent cost. Not to say that that's always going to be the case, not to say that doesn't change deal to deal. It's fully negotiable within the body of the contract. But I want to tell you that most buyers right now are assuming the seller is going to be helping them in some way. Not all of them, but most of them are assuming the seller is going to be helping them to offset the cost of their agent because that's what's been included in the price of the home for time immemorial for the last several decades. Anyway, okay, enough about that. Compensation is due at close of escrow. If for whatever reason a seller decides to they want to try to steal a commission, it's never happened to me. I know you would never do that. But within 180 days of the termination of this agreement, if you sell it to a buyer who has seen it while it was listed, you still owe the commission, unless the only exception to that is if you've listed with another brokerage. If you list with another brokerage, then that's fine. But if you haven't and you sell it to that buyer, you still owe our broker their commission. And if it's not paid in a timely manner, you're also we're gonna pile on 12% interest. Again, this has never happened to me, but just it's to protect the broker from a seller thinking that there's a way to avoid paying a commission. Anyway, deposit. You're authorizing us to have the deposit submitted to escrow. We would not want to hold this anyway. Escrow being the neutral third party, they're going to be the banker of your deal. And scrolling down here, agency relationship. Now, in this contract, basically we're establishing an agency relationship with the seller, but there is a possibility here in Nevada for what they call multiple agency, where we could, in essence, represent both the seller and the buyer. If that was the case, we would have to complete what's called a consent to act form, and that's a separate form that basically identifies that, yes, both buyer and seller know there's only one agent involved, and they're representing both sides. Now, that may become more prevalent now that there's some changes, but there's also a situation where it might be that you're, as an agent, is only representing the seller and the buyer is unrepresented. That's a possibility now too. It makes the deal much more challenging, but some buyers may not want to be committed to paying an agent at all, and they don't have to, so there's a chance that may happen as well. Be prepared for that. There are required disclosures here in the whole state of Nevada, I should say. The main one being the seller's real property disclosure. We have a separate video for you to show you how to complete that. We always send that out with our clients. If we're not meeting them in person, it's really helpful in telling you how to fill that out and giving you some clues as the best ways to do so. The best thing is just be honest. Make sure you disclose everything you're aware of. Just disclose it. I'd rather, when sellers ask me, should I disclose? Yeah, disclose, over-disclose. It's always best to over-disclose. Indemnification, you're basically indemnifying your agent from any specific knowledge, and if you give incorrect information, we can't be held accountable. However, we are responsible to look up certain things and be knowledgeable about things that are easily attainable. we should be able to get those things and do our diligence. Excuse me. Fair housing, we're not allowed to discriminate. Common interest community, this is a whole section about common interest community, which is basically HOAs. If there is an HOA, we're going to want to be aware of it, who they are, how to reach them, their phone number, what the payments are on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. And here you're letting us know that, in fact, the seller is current on all their dues. If there's more than one, you would put those all in here. Special assessments. There's also what we call SIDs and LIDs, Special Improvement District or Limited Improvement District. These are bonds associated with the property. They're a one-time thing. They're paid out over time, usually a little more than a decade. This one has a balance of $8,450, and the seller is paying $475 semi-annually to pay that down. Once it's paid off, it's gone, guys. It doesn't go on forever. But until it's paid off, it becomes normally it's assumable in a transaction. So if a buyer buys the house, they'll assume whatever balance is remaining, and it would be prorated at close of escrow. Excuse me. Keybox, lockbox. We like to put an electronic lockbox on the house. Not everybody likes that. Not everybody wants it. They don't have to have it. As a seller, you can decline it. Say, yeah, I don't want that. But I like having it. It gives better access. It also helps keep track of who's going in and out of the house, when they were there, how long they were there. Here, the seller is giving us the authority to use one-day codes, which I think is terrific. I don't give out one-day codes to people who should already have access through their electronic box. But if a seller wants me to let the neighbor in or let their kids in because they forgot their key or something of that nature, I want the ability to be able to do that for them. This house is not currently being occupied by a tenant. If it was, you'd want to disclose that here. If the seller is a foreign national, we'd want to have that clear and know about that and know the additional things that we would have to deal with at close of escrow. FIRPTA is a tax that the U.S. government applies to foreign nationals, and that would be withheld. Money would be withheld from proceeds in order to cover that tax liability. So if they are a foreign national, they need to disclose it. Buyers need to make sure that they're aware if in fact the seller is a foreign national, and monies are going to be withheld at escrow in order to cover that tax liability. In this case, our seller is not a foreign national. Mediation, all the parties agree to mediate, but nobody's really relinquishing their right to sue if they need to. Multiple list, you understand the information is going to be used in multiple list. Sometimes sellers ask me, they might ask me, gee, Harv, I know I have 2 bedrooms and a den. Can we call it 3 bedrooms? The problem is that if we give bad information on multiple lists, we're fined as agents and participants in multiple lists. So we have to follow their rules. So just know that. That's a common example. There's other examples as well. Marketing and advertising, we're going to use all the photos, everything we've got to get your home sold and show it in its best possible light. Unless you sign some kind of an exclusion, all those photos are going to be used. And then here you're authorizing us to commence marketing. And here you're authorizing us to put a sign in the yard. I know, again, every seller doesn't like to have a sign in the yard. You don't have to. But the more we do, the more likely it is we're going to get you the best possible offer in the shortest period of time. Seller opt-outs, this is as a result of a lawsuit from many, many years ago. You don't have to make your home available for commentary or automated values on the internet. I'm going to suggest you just let us do that. Let us put it out there. Let people do whatever they want on the internet. Not whatever they want, but let them see everything that they want to see. Office exclusive. This is basically, we call this a slang term as a pocket listing. If you don't want your home disseminated on multiple lists, you can just choose to have just your broker market it. But if at any point that changes and it starts to be marketed more out there, says that further, seller acknowledges and agrees that if there's any public marketing of an office exclusive, then the broker must submit it to multiple lists. So once we start to market it in the public, we have to offer it in multiple lists, which you want it. And I've never done this. I would always do multiple list. Multiple list is a wonderful tool to sell your home, so I always use it. I've never done this, but there may be reasons, or there's some people may prefer this for specific types of homes. Use of listing content. The seller hereby grants the broker a non-exclusive, irrevocable, worldwide, royalty-free license to use sublicense through multiple tiers, publish, display, and reproduce the broker listing content. We want to cast as wide a net as possible, and you're giving us permission to do so. Contracts written in Nevada under Nevada law. What's written, where it says entire contract here, what's written is what counts. What I say by way of explanation does not count. Even what I'm saying by way of explanation in this video doesn't count. It's only what's written is what counts. And sometimes these documents do change too. So from the time you see this video to the time you get the document, might be a little bit of difference there as well. Partial invalidity, if part of the contract was deemed invalid, it would not invalidate the whole thing. Force majeure, if there's a major issue, a pandemic or something of that nature, the obligations would be changed. There's a damage cap that the broker, the seller can sue the broker for up to the amount of the commission, the aggregate commission. By signing this agreement, the seller says, yes, they are in fact the owner of the property. I could tell you some stories about that. Notice of default. If the house is in foreclosure, let us know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Let us know that there's issues, that you're having some financial difficulties. We need to know if there's a foreclosure or if anything's been started, if it's been filed or any summons or complaints have been filed by the bank. We need to know that because now timeliness becomes a critical issue. We want to make sure we get your home sold in a timely manner so you still maximize your return. And it becomes even more critical. So we don't want you to lose the home before we can get it sold. Down here, recommendations. We make recommendations based on our own investigation and our relationships. It's not, for me, it's not ever a financial relationship. It's just about trying to provide my buyers the best possible vendors and escrow companies and insurance companies and so forth based on my relationship with them. And then if they don't take good care of you, if you're one of my clients and they don't take good care of you, I want to know about it because maybe they're not going to get my recommendations anymore. If the seller was to default, the broker could sue the seller for the commission. If the broker is in default, the seller may pursue any remedy at law. This has a binding effect by the seller and their heirs. There's its obligations jointly and severally liable. Time is of the essence, can't unduly stall. I like to remind you that at this time, when we talk about this particular element, time is of the essence, that whenever we get an offer that's not attractive, don't shoot the messenger. I've got to present these, and we're getting a lot of these, a lot of investors out there trying to buy homes for cash and cheap and quick and so forth. Don't shoot the messenger. Just know I have to present it. I have to present it in a timely manner. These are the statuses we use once we put you under contract. And I like to choose under contract show. The reason I do that is because a lot of the portals will leave your home as what they would consider available status, so buyers would still maintain interest. And if your buyer that you have under contract doesn't perform, we still have other buyers that are still hopefully interested in looking or considering the property. 1031 property exchange, if you're doing that, and that means this is an investment property, you're trying to defer taxes, we would want to know that, and we'd also want to disclose that to our buyer. No additional terms here. Now we have this statement here in capital letters in bold print. I'm going to read this as it's a very important comment. The pre-printed portion of this agreement has been approved by the Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors. No representation is made as the legal validity or adequacy of any provisions or the tax consequences thereof. For legal or tax advice, consult your attorney or tax advisor. You've heard this at the beginning. Now you're hearing it again at the end. It's very important. If you're not comfortable with this document, have a professional review it for you for tax consequences and legal elements as well. Now here's where you sign. Make sure that your phone number, email, and address are correct. This may not be the address of the property. You may want information sent to a different address, but make sure these are correct. This is how we normally communicate with our clients throughout the transaction. Down here's where we would sign. I would sign right here. My broker would sign right here. And then this last page is all about the variety of ways we're not allowed to discriminate. You can see there's a full page of stuff, very important information here. Hey, listen, this is the document we use to help you sell your home. I hope you found this information useful. We'll talk to you again soon. I hope you found this video helpful. Please feel free to review our other videos at www.lvrealestateradio.com. And once again, thank you for taking the time to learn about this document. And if you have any questions, just call or text me at 702-203-1165.